From the East Texas Sports Network studios, powered by Texas Dairy Queen, a tradition of excellence, the ETSN podcast, where Clint Buckley and Mike Graham offer their, well, they just talk. It's the lowdown on everything high school football in East Texas. And now, Clint Buckley and Mike Graham.
Welcome to the ETSN.fm podcast, Week 1 Preview Edition. I'm Clint Buckley, and I'm joined as always by Mike Graham. How's it going, Mike?
Hey, we're getting even closer to the start of the kickoff, so I'm excited.
Tomorrow is when the high school football season gets underway. We've got a couple of good ones out there Thursday, and then a full slate Friday and a few games on Saturday. So we're all ready to get this thing going. We've been working on preview stuff nonstop for the last month. We're ready for the season to get going. And let's go ahead and start off with perhaps the biggest game of the week, and it's tomorrow. It's Thursday night from Buckeye Stadium in Gilmer, Liberty ILO in Gilmer. This has the makings of a great game.
Really excited about it. Disappointed I can't go, but it's a whale of a game. You know, the two teams in it. Liberty ILO is number 1 in our Class 4A poll. Gilmer's number 2. Gilmer's a defending state champion. Liberty ILO, the only goal they have this season is to win the Class 4A Division I state championship, while Gilmer's in 4A D2. So they can really see where they stack up at this point in the season tomorrow night in Gilmer.
Yeah, I covered this game last year. It was at Rose Stadium in Tyler. It was awfully one-sided. I think Gilmer got off to a very fast start, which was typical for them last year. I think they were up 28-0 5 minutes into the game. So Liberty ILO was kind of shot, right away. But I could tell throughout the game that, they had some talent. The score wasn't going to be indicative of the quality of team that I thought Liberty ILO could be moving forward that year. And then, things never really got better for them. They started off 1-5, last season. And it really didn't look like they were going to accomplish much last year. But
Paris beat them in district play, and Paris is good, but it's not a great team. It's a kind of a one-man band show with their quarterback, Quez Allen. But they really turned it on in the playoffs. I mean, getting within 3 to Argyle, and Argyle easily could have won the 4A Division I state championship last year, lost in double overtime to Navasota in the title game. I mean, there was the improvement that Liberty ILO made last season is just incredible. So I think I speak for us both. We're pretty high on their ceiling this season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement. I think they could go a long way this year, and I think Gilmer is an early litmus test for them to see how much they've improved. From exactly 1 year before, because it was the first game of the year against a highly touted Gilmer team. And now we get to see, them going up against another good Gilmer team right off the bat, and we'll see how much progress they've made in the 12 months that have passed. Everything starts, at least on offense, with quarterback Keemon Freeman, who had his moments in that game against Gilmer last year, but for the most part struggled. But as his play picked up, that's when Ellie began to take off last year. And he's a guy that's being recruited by a handful of FBS programs. Most of them want him on the defensive side of the ball, but he has supreme athletic ability at the quarterback position and is capable of putting a team like Ellie on his back.
Yeah, if he wants to go to a lower division to play college football, he could easily play quarterback. He's good at that spot. And then Lamont Bird at running back and Thurman Mobley. I mean, that's a nice core that you can just fit other pieces into. The big question for them this year is going to be offensive line. That's where most of their losses were.
Yes, and moving over to the defensive side of the ball, how about Legarian Carson and the offseason he's had? Last year he was new on the scene as a sophomore defensive end. Big kid, about 6'4", 260 pounds. We had Gabe Brooks from Scout.com talk about him yesterday on the podcast about how he is probably the leader of the pack in East Texas as far as the 2017 recruiting class goes. I believe he already has 9 scholarship offers. He picked up a TCU one most recently a couple of weeks ago. Great player. He's got good bloodlines. He's related to Trey Carson, the Texas A&M running back, and also I believe he's related to Davion Hall, a former LE star as well, who's now at Baylor at receiver. So
I'm jealous. I wish I had that bloodline.
Yeah, me too. No kidding. I wish I was 6'4", 260 pounds and had my pick of whatever college I wanted to go to.
But, we talk a lot about Liberty ILO and their strengths and the litmus test. The same thing can be said for Gilmer because their offense is overhauled and Liberty ILO's defense is incredible.
Right, so it'll be a good challenge for a new crop of offensive playmakers for Gilmer. Zach Spears will be taking over the quarterback spot for McLean Carter, who's now at Incarnate Word. McLean had a great senior season at Gilmer, obviously leading them to a 16-0 state championship season. Gilmer became the second highest scoring offense in the history of Texas high school football, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. And then, but Gilmer has losses elsewhere as well. Chris Boyd, who's now at Texas, he played running back for them last year. Blake Lynch, who's at Baylor, played some receiver, played a little quarterback, played a little everywhere for Gilmer last season. He's gone.
Quinn Fluellen,
Nick Smith, Chase Tate, their secondary options at receiver are gone too. So there's going to be a completely new crop of players on the offensive side of the ball for Gilmer. Defensively, though, is where I think they can kind of hold it together, at least early in the season, because they have some supreme playmakers on that defense, and it all starts with DeMarco Boyd.
Yeah, DeMarco Boyd, and not only on defense, but also offensively, I feel like he could play any position. I mean, you talk O-line, you talk quarterback. He will play receiver and running back, and those will be his two primary responsibilities. But on the defensive side, what I really like about DeMarco and what's great for Gilmer is that they can shift their fronts. You know,
Yep.
you can go from a 3-4 to a 4-3. You can play end, or you can play linebacker. You can even play Mike linebacker. So a lot of great things there. The secondary is in good condition from last year's state championship team. And the defensive line has another playmaker in Tristan Oliveris up front. So, I feel like this game just comes down to what offense executes better and what offense can do it a little more. I think it's going to be an all-around really competitive game.
Yeah, I think turnovers, like in any season opener, will determine a lot of which direction the game goes, which they always do the first. I mean, there's going to be some sloppy play. There's going to be moments of inconsistency on both offense and defense, so that sometimes leads to some shootouts and sometimes lead to some low-scoring games. But I think when it's all said and done, Gilmer and Ellie will be competitive through the end, and I will be there Thursday night at Buckeye Stadium, looking forward to it. The next day, I'll be heading east over to Lobo Stadium, where the Longview Lobos will be entertaining longtime rival Lufkin. These two teams got quite familiar with one another last season.
That's right, and I think that both teams have a little something to prove in this game because Lufkin wiped the floor with Longview in the season opener. That score was 44-14. That game was over by the midway point of the second quarter. But then you get to the by-district round of the playoffs, and they meet again, and Longview scores a 2-point conversion with 33 seconds left to take the game.
After trailing 28-0 in the first half. I mean, it looked like Lufkin was going to do the same thing to Longview that they did in week one. And to Longview's credit, Des Chumley probably had the best game of his career at quarterback for Longview, leading them back into that game. And like you said, they score what looked like was going to be the tying touchdown with the extra point coming with less than a minute to go. John King elects to go for two. He doesn't want any part of overtime. He had enough of Lufkin between the week one game and having to struggle to come back in that by-district by-district game.
128 minutes is enough of one team.
Exactly. So it ought to be fun. These two teams have met dozens of times over the years, and it's always been a fun series, a fun game to cover, and I'm looking forward to it. That kicks off once again 7:30 Friday at Lobo Stadium in Longview. Another pretty interesting game matches another couple of 5A teams from those two districts, Texas High and White House. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to this one. I won't be there, but I'm looking forward to learning all about it because we just don't know a whole lot about the two teams right now, particularly White House. They're breaking in a new quarterback in Tanner Roach, but we know that, as always, they're going to have a really nice receiving core. Probably the same for Texas High, and I think I'm really excited to see what quarterback Cade Pearson does this year. He's going to be a junior. He kind of looks like Ryan Mallett Jr., size-wise, tall, and they're running an offense very similar to what Mallett was working with when he was at Texas High. Other than that, I mean, just it's going to be a competitive game between two really athletic squads, and both of them are looking for some momentum heading into the rest of their non-district schedule. Both are playing pretty competitive schedules. Texas High will have Arkansas High in a few weeks, and White House has Chapel Hill. The very next week?
The very next week, yep.
So, yeah,
it ought to be fun. I remember last year's game came down to the very end. White House went up to Texarkana and was able to pull out a 38-35 win. And that was part of White House's surprising 3-0 start to the season. Everybody was kind of counting them out early because they didn't have Patrick Mahomes and all those great seniors that had graduated the year before, but they They pulled it together when they needed to at the end of that game, won it. It'll be interesting to see how this game goes. A lot of new players, a lot of new faces getting their first taste of Friday Night Lights. So it should be entertaining. That kicks off 7:30 Friday from Wildcat Stadium in White House. Last big game on the schedule we're going to talk about is a game you'll be at Friday night, Elysian Fields against reigning state finalist Mineola.
Yeah, really excited about that one because both teams have a ton to prove after last season, and for Mineola, it starts with a 6-3 loss to Elysian Fields last year, and that score is just mind-boggling to me because of how offensively dominant both teams are. So I have no idea what happened in that game, but I'm not expecting a 6-3 score. Elysian Fields, great quarterback. Ryan Story returns, and then Kyrie Ratliff is a player
bowling
pretty
ball
high.
receiver.
Like 6'4". 220, I think.
Yeah,
running back. I mean, or 6'2", somewhere in between.
You don't see that a lot at the 3A level.
Yeah, so that's going to be a really nice test for a defensive front from Mineola that had to be overhauled during the offseason from their state championship game team. But at the same time, Mineola's offense is clearly the early strength of their team. When you've got twin Texas A&M commitments in Austin Anderson and Riley Anderson at your offensive tackle spots, and then extremely athletic quarterback and running back in your backfield, things looking good. So we'll see how it goes. I think that this game really could go either way.
And I think Elysian Fields can kind of use this game as a great measuring stick about what they have in store this season, because a lot of people are high on them this year. A lot of people are picking Elysian Fields ahead of defending state champion Wascom in that district.
Yeah, that's a tough district too because you have ARP in it as well.
Yeah, so if Elysian Fields can take care of business and knock off a team that everybody's been talking about this offseason is perhaps East Texas's best bet to get back to the state championship game this season, if they can pull off a win on the road, it could be a building block for Elysian Fields' season, and they could really take off after that. So I know you'll be happy to see both teams and see what they have and see what they have in store for the season.
And bottom line, there are some questions defensively for both teams. Whichever defense sucks it up the most is the one that's going to win.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a fun week. Week 1, it's always a great week, the opening week of the high school football season. We have tons of coverage planned for you this weekend from all the games that we'll be at, and we'll have some correspondence covering. It should be a blast. We can't wait for the season to get going. Be sure to follow at ETSN.fm for all the East Texas updates. You can follow us each on our personal account. I'm at Clint Buckley, and Mike, you are?
I'm Mike_ETSN.
There you go. So if you have any questions or comments about the show, you just want to complain about what a terrible job we're doing and how awful we are to listen to, we'll take those as well. But hopefully you'll have nothing but good things to say, and we can't wait to get this thing rolling. So until next week, this is Clint Buckley and Mike Graham signing off. We'll talk to y'all later.